Have you ever seen this?
No, not in a racing situation.
This is the best way to look at it. Let's just put him where he should be.
He passes the leader before we get to this checkered line.
That's a pretty clean repair. Listen, I'm not great with tape, but I can make 2 8s.
Welcome into a special best of edition of NASCAR Inside the Race presented by Consumer Cellular. In this, the second week of the Olympic break, we look back at some of our best breakdowns, data analysis, and some fun viral moments from the season.
First up, the importance of getting the car full of fuel with Christopher Bell at COTA.
Bell had a chance except for this area right here. Pit stop 1, 19 seconds, killed the 20 car.
Yeah, this stop here cost him probably 6 seconds on the racetrack. More importantly, 5 positions got by him.
Before we get into what went wrong, let's talk about how it's supposed to work. The fuel can, let's focus on the connection, the dry brake, and how it works.
Now, if we take this aluminum structure here, let's just break it out here. It's a big circle, and there's a circle inside of it. So what happens is the fuel is actually in this center. That's where the fuel flows through into the fuel cell. And the outside is the air vent where the air comes back out of the fuel cell, what used to be the catch can, and that air will end up coming back up through the tube into the can.
Fuel in the Sunoco, pretty easy to understand, down into the trunk.
And then air is coming around the outside of this, comes out, up through this clear tube, and back into the top of the can. Makes it a very efficient way for the fuel to flow through, air to replace it.
So the other thing to remind everybody is it takes 2 fuel cans. There isn't a catch can man holding the second can. You have to go back and get it. The exchange between the two, you think 2.5 seconds is a good one?
I think 2 seconds is your target. NASCAR regulates this can. They can only put 12 gallons of fuel in it, so you have to get the second can.
Here's where I want to focus on. Let's talk about that exchange. Leaves the car. We're going to put our clock in. We're looking for 2.5 seconds. A little fumble, hits the side of the dry brake, finally gets plugged in, and you see it right here, right? 4.1. So that right there is 4 seconds where no fuel is being put in the car. We expect it to be 2.5. So that is already a net 1.5 second loss.
Yeah, definitely a loss here. There was a loss in the first can. Just seemed like he was plugged in longer than what I would have expected. But really, this whole exchange, it's not just a fueler. It's behind the wall. It's everything. And you pointed out an issue that you saw here.
Yeah, so let's take a look. This is the second can that's going in, right? He's going to try to take a grab right here, just like he holds his first can. So if I play this forward, you're going to see this gas man come back, slow motion reach, and misses. I mean, misses with his left hand. Completely misses the dump can. And what makes this so impressive is as I go forward, he's holding this with one hand. He finally gets the second hand. I'd have dropped the can. Nearly 100 pounds is going to the concrete. But what it does is gets his angle off. So as he goes forward, watch this plug in.
It's low, gets too much angle in it, and then by the time it gets to here, now, we're at the point. Remember, I talked about those 2 circles, right? You've got the center circle that has fuel in it. You've got the outside that the air is coming in. We see that there's fuel coming out of this right now, which means the fuel is coming past that air area, and it's plugging up the air. It's actually making a challenge out of this.
Well, it's making another issue as well because I'm going to show the vent line specifically. Drag that down and show you what I'm looking at. I'm going to back up with the vent lines clean. All right, so right there's no fuel in the vent. Right. When the car is full, you see fuel come up the vent. That signifies the car's full. In this situation, we know it isn't full. He just plugged in the second can. So as we go forward...
As you're seeing fuel coming down, fuel's going up. And that's because fuel's now gotten in the vent and it's plugged it.
Remember, this was supposed to be air.
Yes.
Right? That was supposed to be clean and be air, but instead it has fuel in it.
And this to me is a 2-liter bottle of Coke that you just turned upside down and it's going blub, blub, blub. Where that can should dump 1.5 to 2 gallons a second, it's probably dumping less than a gallon a second now because it's got all that fuel in it.
The problem isn't the 5 seconds or 6 seconds that cost them, it's the positions on the racetrack.
5 positions on the racetrack. When you look at the restart that happened after stage 2, Christopher Bell, you see him back there. Now, count the cars that we've got here because the 51, the 3, the 17, the 8, and the 48 all passed him on that cycle.
Yeah, so the problem with that is 5 positions cost you time. Another way to look at it, and this is the best way to look at it, plus I love to use this. Let's just put him where he should be. He was just in front of Alex Bowman. I think he could have stayed in front of Alex Bowman. That moves him all the way up on this restart. That makes a tremendous amount of difference.
You put him in this position, and we're having the conversation today about why did every other crew chief miss the 2-stop strategy?
We see Kyle Larson runs the bottom. What I want to show is just how close the 45 gets. This is where Larson knows something has to happen. He looks up, the 45 is coming at a pretty good rate of speed. They go down into turn 1. The 45 this time does that really nice higher lane, gets a run, and now we're going to head down to the backstretch, and this is when Larson decides to run the top.
Yes, and at this point, Larson's not driving his line. He's driving the dirty air to where Tyler Reddick's going to be.
So if we take a look, once again, I pointed out how the 5 car, he's between these 2 paving seams, right? So this is the top seam, this is the middle seam. You have Reddick looking up here, right? So I have no doubt that the 5 of Kyle Larson could easily move his car up here. He could easily block the 45 and run his lane.
I think he could, but I think that's a risk to him because he's not been running the wall. He doesn't know what's going to happen as he gets up there, but he also, to your point, he only goes as high as he has to block the run above him and keep him from crossing him over.
So I don't think he's high enough yet, and he realizes it. So you watch right up here. That's not the 5 sliding up by chance. That's the Larson moving up to block. And why that matters is as we move forward to exit, the other thing I want to talk about is the 5's choice of lane here. So once again, the 5 could easily been up here. And I think what that does is it shuts the air off to the 45. That makes it look easier, like that's where he wants to be. The risk is the 45, if his car will turn, can turn to the bottom and get that run down the hill off turn 3. That's a big difference. Now, you and I both know that's a risk because the 45 could turn, get through the air, and have to lift.
Yes, and I think you've got to have the 45, Tyler Reddick would have to have a really, really good race car, which he's had, to be able to make that turn through the wake of the 5 car if he went up there. But nevertheless, the 5 car didn't leave him enough and blocks both lanes from happening, keeps himself in a good position.
Yeah, now we're going to see here, as we pointed out on the other view, right? The 45 goes in, chases the 5 car into turn 1, kind of loses the nose. I'll speed up the footage here. Off from turn 2. He still has a chance here. This is where, I mean, he definitely wants to do it over, but watch the momentum difference. As soon as the 5 gets to the white line, the 45 gets tight on corner exit, and then for here, it's an easy final lap for the 5 car.
Yeah, I felt like this was one where I think if Tyler Reddick has it to do over again, he stays committed to the wall.
Well, we had some fun with the telestrator breaking down the on-track action, but up next, we're going to go back to what Todd and I did on top of the pit box during our careers, and we're going to break down some data.
Hey race fans, Corey LaJoy here. Join Ryan Flores and myself for Stacking Pennies each week. I'll break down my race and explain what happened right out of my windshield.
Plus, we award the Dogs of the Week for the best pit crews and go in-depth on all the money stops, pit road mistakes, and penalties.
And we've got a ton of guests. We have SVG stopping by. We had Ricky Stenhouse after he punched Kyle Busch in the face. We've had Bubba. We've had all sorts of guys in here in the Nonsense Garage, so you do not want to miss it. Check us out on Sirius XM Channel 90, YouTube, or wherever you find your podcasts. Each and every week, Stack of Pennies is what's up.
Crew chiefs digest a lot of data throughout the race, and it's important to understand what it all means. Fans of the show know we like to use our line graphs to show you what happens during a race. So here's some of the best from the season.
It's Tyler Reddick chasing down the 48 of Bowman. So let's look at race position. Let's focus on out here. Really from the last caution on, we're going to see Reddick kind of make this ascent and try to get to the lead. Another great way to look at it or to understand how it's happening are lap times. So before I show the actual lap time, let's talk about concepts. The 48 is the purple lap time. Reddick is the red lap time. The 48's lap time is very flat. There's a little variation, but it doesn't move much.
No, and that's what this wet tire is capable of doing on this circuit. Whether it's wet or dry, there's only so much traction it can make, and that seems to be around that 95-second lap time as we see here.
Once you get to a certain pace, whether it's uncomfortable in other corners, you have to be on dry. So,
and we talked about earlier that Adam Stevens felt like he was rushed.
That's right. He didn't want to be here.
The point that he would want to come is right here where these two lines cross over. And if you look at that, that's probably 57 laps in.
Yeah, you're saying he's rushed because at the end of the stage he had to come early.
Yes.
So they restart between clean air and a wet track. Alex Bowman faster. If we move it forward a little bit further, lap 55, Alex Bowman still faster, but Reddick gaining not only track position, but speed with a drying racetrack.
Yes, yeah, and then the next lap you get to, here, Tyler Reddick's 2+ seconds faster. And this is, you're still seeing the 95-second lap time for Alex Bowman because that's what those wet tires were capable of. Once the dries got on, they could make some time.
I love this. So this is basically delta, how far back from the leader. The leader is the top. It's the dotted line. You want to cross the dotted line. You want this to go up.
This dotted line right here.
That's right. That's
So
the leader. So now if we look at the red line, it disappears out there because he has a little issue with the wall, but connect it for us to show everybody.
If we tie this together,
Yeah.
he passes the leader before we get to this checkered line out here at the end.
I think he has a real chance in 6. He'll definitely be there by 7. And we don't know what's going to happen between 7 and the start-finish line, but it was going to be a battle. This is what it looked like for Tyler Reddick. Turn 4, turn 5, touches the fence, straight up, has to get out of the gas. But I really, it looked like a simple mistake, but then he kind of explained it in his post-race interview. Remember, this 45 is on dries.
Mm-hmm.
They work best in the dry. So, it's very obvious right here, this line of dampness on his outside. He's worried about sliding up into that. And really happening what happens, which is he loses speed off the corner.
Turned a little aggressively. Definitely too low here. If you look at it and stop it, really that car, when you look at it, there's 4 or 5 feet that car could move out half a car width and put himself in a better position through the corner. If he does that and doesn't end up hitting the wall here, I think he's there by the time he gets to turn 6.
Yeah, so if he slide him up in the dry, you'll see he gets around the corner. He has a clear exit. What it looked like in real time is he touches that wall. He's off the gas. He's in the wet. Now, he does a nice job of not ruining his day completely, but it ended up costing him the chance to win.
Here we've got 4 guys, and I'll look at it. They're in that 10th to 20th range.
These were all 4-tire stop. I think they felt like, we're going to make sure, we got 4 tires to go to the end if need be, and we're going to make sure this thing is packed full of fuel.
And I'd look at this. If we look at it here, these guys are all 10th to 20th. Really good, straightforward call. And then what we've got highlighted on here is where they came out post this pit stop at 2:09 before they started. Here they came out 17th, 19th, 18th, and 23rd.
Well, and one thing, Todd, they may have been banking on is the guys that had not pitted yet that stayed out on that caution before this and on this one, they're going, you know what, we're not going to worry about those guys. They're going to take care of themselves one way or the other.
They were going to have to stop for fuel and tires at some point, right? So there were, 15 of them that stayed out? There was a stop that happens pretty quickly there right afterwards. You see this upward trajectory of everybody. That's all because all of those guys came and came to pit road. Now we're looking at being in the top 5.
Yeah. Again, I think they knew if they got another caution, that those 15 guys, for the most part, that stayed out on that caution, they were going to be coming to pit road, or if it stayed green, they were eventually going to have to come pit road more than likely anyhow.
And you look at these 4 guys, they all finished in the top 10, netted out from a positive day for all 4 of them.
And a lot of them definitely needed a top 10 finish. There is no question.
Yeah, this was a great day for these guys. The other strategy that kind of played out, the guys that were probably top 10, a little bit more conservative, were right on our fuel window. I don't want to give them my track position. Maybe we're going to go longer, but they didn't. They got a quick caution and ended up having to make decisions at 2:17. These are the 4 guys that finished in the top 10 that came at 2:17. Now, 2 of these guys did take 2 tires.
Ty Gibbs in the 54, you think about Brad Keselowski in the 6, they're going to roll the dice. They're going to do 2 right side tires only, try to get that track position, but then you got Tyler Reddick, who had a fast race car yesterday in that Toyota. Ryan Blaney, who was kind of quiet most of the day, they elected to go with 4 tires, knowing this was going to still be probably a very long run to the checkered flag.
If we take a look at the 20 car, so this graph here, the white dotted line at the top is the leader. The purple line is the 11 of Denny Hamlin. The yellow is the 20 of Christopher Bell. The reason I want to start talking about this is I wonder if the 20's decision to pit when he did in that final stage, the first pit stop being a little bit later, like 7 laps after the leaders, if that wasn't a telltale for the 11 later. So if we take a look and we really focus in, the 20 of Christopher Bell comes to pit road, first time under green in the final stage, has a pit stop, comes out. He is basically 8 seconds behind the leader. You can see right here, Denny Hamlin is 6/10 of a second behind. Bell is 8/10 of a second behind.
Yeah, definitely in one of those situations. But this is where he got the speeding penalty.
So he comes in, serves a speeding penalty. So this is going to shock people. He was 8. Now he is 24 seconds behind. So crazy enough, the way Richmond works, because you pit basically off turn 4. You enter the racetrack in the middle of 1 and 2. You run almost an entire lap. You only lose 16 seconds. You would think it'd be like 30 or 40 seconds. You lose 16 seconds doing a drive-through without stopping.
Drive-through. It's almost 30 seconds if you do the pit stop with it, but here it's 16-second penalty. ends up just over a lap down and drove his way back forward.
Just over a lap down, drives forward through the leaders,
Yes.
has another green flag pit stop as the leaders do, and then before the final yellow, because remember that hole happened to change the finish, he had driven this all the way back to 14.6 seconds. So he has made up.
If you take the 16-second penalty away, he's 2 seconds to the net positive here.
So the reason I wonder if this matters is if we take this run and we move it up and we assume that he comes off pit road.
Just take the drive-through penalty away from it.
That's right. And we connect the dots, which is basically what we did, and we really focus up here. That 3/4 of the way through the run, the 20 car crosses.
He takes the lead
line.
right there.
Now, there's a few things. Look, traffic does change. If you're racing the guys for the lead, it does change. But the simple fact is the math works.
The car had enough speed to put this process together to say there's a formidable chance that he would be the leader at that.
Todd, we saved the best for last. Up next, we look back at a few incidents we'd never seen before.
I'm Ryan Flores. Join Kim Kuhn and myself each and every week right here at Around the Track. Whether you are going to the racetrack or watching from home, we get you ready for all things national and regional level.
And we'll tell you who and what to watch for each week. Plus, we get you ready for the weekend at the racetrack, and Erica will help you place your bets to win some easy money.
Be sure to check out Around the Track every Wednesday on NASCAR's YouTube channel.
We've seen a few viral moments this season, and not just from the Cup level. Here are our favorites so far.
I've never seen this before. The entire rear housing comes out of his truck. Have you ever seen this?
No, not in a racing situation. I mean, those barrel flips at Daytona Speedway races, maybe, but not intact like this rolling across the ground.
All right, so I was trying to come up with a conception of why this happened. This is what I believe. In road course racing, under braking, which Marco doesn't run a lot of NASCAR vehicles. They're more IndyCar. They brake very differently. As you get on the brakes, next-gen car, not so much, but Xfinity and truck, they want to wheel hop. What does that mean? That means the rear tires basically skip across the pavement because of flex in both the driveline and the rear suspension.
Yeah, as you look at it, the truck arms, they're 51 inches long, and that's a kind of cantilevered I-beam. And under
If you're going to
braking,
talk about them, I'll show them. So these are the truck arms, basically. Front of the truck going back, these two items right here are the truck arms.
yeah, and you look at that, the spring sits on top of it. That's a 1/8 steel C-channel. It flexes. As the brakes get on the rear, it's rolling that housing and it's flexing those truck arms up. And then as you lose contact patch, when the tire starts to grip or lose its grip, it unloads that and becomes this bouncing mechanism, and it just keeps loading, unloading that I-beam.
So simple enough, these components right here hold the truck arm to the housing, and they're still there. These nuts right here, I'm going to zoom in. Let's do it a different way. I like zooming in better. You see those two items right here, this one and this one. Those are the nuts that hold the housing to the truck arm, and they're all still there.
Yeah, if you look at it, there's a U-bolt that goes back around the axle tube and comes back up here. That's how it's secured in there. But as you see going forward from the drawing you had before, there should be a piece of I-beam that goes forward from here. It broke off here at the tube.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, what does that look like if we go back to give everybody a reference? Here are the truck arms, and they're broke basically right here, just in front of the rear housing. And then, look, there are shocks, there's a track bar, there's a drive shaft. None of those are designed to hold the rear housing in the car. I can't imagine how these things, it had to be so violent inside the truck.
You saw how hard the truck came up because it had to kind of drive over the tires. I can't imagine how hard the hit was when it came back down just on steel.
Creative repairs, the ARCA race. It was actually a really good race. Friday in Dover. Let's talk about this. The 82. This is Carson Qualple, who also ran the Xfinity race. He was part
Just
of that
about
great
won
finish.
it.
Just about won. He has a tire, I think, a flat right front. He's slowed down into the corner. Contact on the right rear by the 6, who does a nice job not running him completely over, but it just tears the right rear quarter panel off. Well, you and I both know how sensitive that is for aerodynamics. So then the team has to find a way to repair this. They fill it with the pit sign.
Yeah, if you look at it, that's a big void for a place that makes a lot of side force, but they come to pit road. I like this. They come and you look at it, they bring the aluminum pit sign out and just start taping and riveting and end up making a really fairly clean repair here.
Now, maybe I would ask myself why we had to use the pit sign and not a piece of aluminum, but I love the creativity.
It's the 28, not the 82. 'cause
Or
it's upside down.
down. Yeah, that's right. So we have to cover the numbers. Well, to come back to run third. So the fix worked. Now remember, so in ARCA, it's a little different. In NASCAR, you can't add parts and pieces. In ARCA, it's basically up to the officials, which I think is great, right? At the Cup Series, it was getting carried away with new noses, new sides.
The carts that we carried.
Well, here, I'm going to show
with
yours.
Parts.
Let's start with you. You want to talk about, this is 2015. Teammates, right?
Yeah, teammates. I think you went to the.
Oh, no, this is you, right?
Oh, yeah, it is. This was Bristol spring race. Just coming into it. I think we were starting to see some wet weather at that point, but trying to be the one leading coming to it. Knocked the radiator. This did some damage here, but it also got, and you see the rain.
Yeah.
We've got it under cover, but knocked the radiator out of it as well. So rather than, and at this point, we just had a whole front clip. We had that already set up. It would clamp onto the sway bar tube. We had the points at the back. We came to the garage, put this back on. Actually got a lap back once we put this back together. Car raced pretty well.
Well, and that's really kind of why NASCAR changed the rules to eliminate all this crash. The car does look good. I'll give you credit. Ours, same track. We're going to see a lot of these at Bristol. I'm not going to say it looks quite as good. I was crew chief in Dale Jr. at the time. 4 and the 11 get together. Not the first and only time in their career. We come in, and it really doesn't hit very hard, but it peels the left side open, takes all the crash foam out. So we had to go behind pit wall because we had to put the foam back in the door. It was required. And because the door was all mangled, we basically just put a little homemade repair to it, put a piece of aluminum, a little quarter panel, and then duct tape the 88 to it. That's as good as I could get for creative repairs.
Well, but this is what we used to do. But to the point, we had quarter panels, we had sides, we had fenders, we had front clips, we had rear clips. We had a ton of stuff, and NASCAR is like, we don't need to be doing this. And a lot of these led to the debris cautions because these panels would blow back off. That's a pretty clean repair.
Well, that's one advantage of. Listen, I'm not great with tape, but I can make 2 8s.
Yeah, definitely. So different to see it, and brought back some old school memories. I really like them putting that flat on the ARCA car, and they even left the back out a little bit farther, a little extra side force to end the race.
All right, Todd, we're 20 races into the season already, and it's always fun to look back. But I know that the fans are ready to get back on the track, and so am I, as NASCAR returns to Richmond this Sunday, the Cookout 400, 6 p.m. on USA.